Hi, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show. Listen, it looks like the live feed to Twitter might be a little janky. So if it is, I think George posted the YouTube link. If you usually watch on Twitter, we ask that you hop over to YouTube and comment there. Tell us what you think. George, it was funny when I was watching that intro, how many of the guests are people that we talk to after the season's over, because we really kind of crank it up once draft season starts around. And I'm not researching 500 players. You're not researching 500
That's what Ryan's
players.
here for, though. Exactly.
That is why we have Ryan Fowler here, because he has researched 500 players, I promise. Ryan, tell us about the early portion of what we've seen. We are now through the All-Star events and the weigh-ins and underwear Olympics. Guys that have made an impression on you so far.
Yeah, first things first, guys. Always appreciate you having me on. You guys do great work. Always good being here. Best time of the year, right? Best time of the year.
Absolutely, it's fun.
Like you said, we're past All-Star events, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Hula Bowl. All those events are now in the rearview mirror, and so is the Combine. I think there's a couple guys, I think off the top of my head, that have really taken advantage of this process. One is Grayson Halton, the Oklahoma interior defensive lineman, to really taking advantage. I think three guys that really stood out to me at the Combine that I know, Doug, you're going to love to hear this, is the three Georgia receivers, Zachariah Branch, Colby Young, and Dylan Bell. All three of those guys, different body types, right? You got your X, your Y, and your Z in those guys. I thought each of them really took advantage of this process, and some of the tackles as well. Seeing Monroe Freeling, seeing Spencer Fano, how about Keelan Rutledge in the middle? What they did at Georgia Tech the last few years, and all their counter run concept. He's going to be a guy, I don't think he maybe gets out of the back end of the second round, as a guy that was underrated as a fourth or fifth round player just a few months ago in the summer. So this is the best time of year. I know you guys didn't do, researching 500 guys. I promise I'm here for you. Whatever you got for me, shoot your way. We'll have a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It's funny about Dylan Bell. I've been telling people about him for a long time. The other guys, kind of used the portal and came in and have been fantastic. Dylan Bell was the guy we had on the team this year, right? I mean, it's kind of how that Debo Samuel kind of guy, move him all over the field. Someone's going to get a steal on those. And then Zachariah Branch, man, he moves fast.
Yes.
All right, we're going to do a NFC East mock draft today. George and I thought if we only did the Commanders, we'd only have a few spots to talk about. Commanders are low in draft picks this year. So the beauty about doing these mock drafts, people always say, what are we doing the mock drafts for? Nobody knows. It's stupid. Well, it's not. One way, it's a great way to learn a lot of different football names while looking at ranges as to where they might go. This is how you build information blocks, is by kind of having these discussions, looking at who may be around. If I take D end in round one, particularly for the Commanders, I got to wait till 71 before I can even think about what the next selection is. Same thing for the other teams. Like the Eagles, when we get there, the Eagles are probably going to have 14 draft picks. So they can't even sign them all. They'll have to figure out what to do with some of these picks, which is why we do these exercises. And I think they get better every year. The simulators, the algorithms seem to get better and better every year. So I'm excited to dive into it, George. Let's we're using PFF mock draft machine today.
Yeah, so obviously the whole point of this whole simulation is we want to kind of see where players are relatively going to land. We thought it'd be a fun exercise to pull up the NFC East because we can learn about our opponents, but at the same time, we could also look at where the draft board is going to potentially fall, look at different talent levels. And ironically, the Giants have a very similar needs that the Commanders do. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see how that plays out as well. So what we did is we fired up the PFF Draft Simulator. We highly recommend it. It's a great tool. We're going to walk through the different NFC East teams. It's our first mock draft of the year. So if I have some technical flaws, give me some grace online, guys. We're going to go through it together, and we're going to kind of walk through it. I guess, Ryan, before we jump into it, the Combine was very interesting, a very fast Combine. Top of the board, did anything really stand out to you? I know offline we're talking about Jeremiah Love and how he was potentially shining. Sonny Styles had a generational, kind of a breakout Combine as well. Anything stood out to you before we dive into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the attention is on Ruben Bain's arm length. It's on Cardinal Tate's 40 time, all that stuff. And I understand, or the QB2, QB3, QB4 conversation. I think if anything, guys, really for me on my board, really Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love really are that 1A, 1B. One day I could like Love a little bit more. One day I could like Downs. I just think overall, if you were to ask me if I could pick two guys, from this class to say, hey, these guys are going to be Pro Bowlers in year one, I think Jeremiah Love, I think it is Caleb Downs. Nothing really dramatic stood out to me. I try to do my best as far as watching as much tape as possible as I can heading into this, to where you have an expectation for certain guys, to where you go to Indy and you verify those measurables. Now, I'm not in the meeting rooms. That's the biggest part of Indy, is the things that you don't see. These guys behind the face mask, but obviously guys stood out in that portion. Guys didn't. I'm not going to dive too much into that as far as things that I've heard, but on the field, specifically, it starts with Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles. I don't think either of those guys, as of right now, get outside the top 5.
Interesting. And I think you hit the nail on the head. From what I understand, the NFL Combine is more of a confirmation of what you've already seen on tape, what you've kind of seen in the drills. So it's kind of like reaffirming what you already believe in. So it's, I think it's kind of a coming of age there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're about to jump into the draft right now. So Ryan, I know you are really deep into the draft prospects and you have all the talent, but I know in your heart you are a Commanders fan. So looking at, or you are a Commanders follower, looking at number 7, who do you hope potentially falls to Washington at 7? Or that would be the best fit, I suppose. Yeah,
I said this to you guys off camera, and I'll say it to everybody now watching, and that you could put David Bailey, Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love in a bucket. Close your eyes, pick it, and grab a name. And I honestly, fully transparent, would be okay with any of those names to grab them at. Now, at 7 overall, we'll kind of see how this thing plays out here. But I think right now my focus is Caleb Downs. It is Jeremiah Love. Those are my top 2 players on the board. I think either of them fill a need. I know Jeremiah Love is someone that, look, the offense isn't the issue, and you need players on defense. And when I look at Downs, now he is listed as a safety. That's great, but he's not just a safety. He could be a nickel corner. He can be an overhang safety. He can be a single high guy. He's going to be an impact in the ground game. He can eliminate tight ends over the seam. He really does everything for a defense. And I think if there's one player on defense that I'd like, it's him. One player on offense, it's Jeremiah Love. But again, as I mentioned, if there's any of those guys are there, I'm absolutely fine with those 2.
Absolutely. Let's fire this thing up really quickly. We're going to go through the draft. And as I mentioned before, as Doug mentioned before, we're actually going to have an NFC East draft. So I'm going to see, it's going to be kind of interesting, Ryan. You do have to do what's best for the team and not necessarily, for the Commanders and draft for the heart right there. So we're going with the Giants. We'll fire it up. Let's give it a whirl. And here
Before
we go.
we get there, Ryan, is there any way as the Raiders you would pass on quarterback here? I mean, is he a true blue chip quarterback prospect? And if he's not, as a GM, how do you convince yourself to take a everyday starter, let's say, instead of like a real impact player, particularly when you're the Raiders and you're kind of starting all over in this thing?
It's such a great question. And I think if you're John Spytek out there and you have Tom Brady in your ear, I think really it comes down to either you got a guy or you don't. And I know in this class, this isn't the Jaden class. I don't even think last year I would have still taken Cam Ward over Fernando Mendoza. I think at his ceiling, Fernando is a guy that's probably a top 12 to 14, 15 quarterback in the NFL. Now, just because he doesn't have a dynamic skill set under center, whether that's with his arm or with his legs, one thing that stands out about him is just how darn tough he is. He's legit tough, and he understands what he's looking at pre-snap and then identifying that post-snap and making the right reads. He's going to take care of the football. He's going to make the right play. They're going to get guys around him. They already have Genty. They already have Bowers. They got Colton Miller at left tackle. Those are nice pieces fundamentally for the Raiders. But overall, if they don't want to go there and at least entertain options and wait for what potentially is next year with the Arch Manning or Dante Moore or whomever, they may do that. Not this year. Maybe 10 years down the road, they exercise this again. It's going to be Fernando Mendoza. I'm pretty darn sure about that. But it's a great question because this is the things you have to do as a GM to kick the tires around.
Yeah.
So is there another option here? Maybe we could add even more assets for the future as teams are always looking forward to.
All right. So looking at the board, things kind of shook out. Very interesting. So we saw this chalk pick with Fernando Mendoza going number 1 overall. Ruben Bain going number 2. I think that's kind of interesting. We've seen Arvell Reese throughout this draft cycle. David Bailey starting to get popular at number 2 overall. We see Ruben Bain over here. Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs. Before I get to the Giants pick, are you concerned about arm length, Ryan, with Ruben Bain? It's been a big talk about, what's going on in the combine.
Short answer, no. Answer, no. I'll say this, George. I've had conversations with 2 players along that offensive line this year, Markel Bell and CeCe Nainoa, former or future first-round pick, specifically with Markel, 6'9", over 36 on the arm. That's one of the longest players in this class we've really ever seen. He said that Ruben Bain, both those guys said, look, Ruben is an absolute nightmare to deal with every single day. And you watch Ruben year after year after year at Miami show up in the ground game, show up in as far as just rushing the passer, the bend at 280 plus pounds. He can line up and down the front. I know that's a talking point, but there also, I think for me, there has to be an appreciation as far as just a high level football player. Okay. He may not be the best athlete in the world, but we've talked about the Isaiah Simmons and the Tyree Wilsons of recent memory. But then there's also the Ryan Kerrigans and the George Karlaftises of the world, where you have to appreciate the football player. And I think even Caleb Downs fits into that bucket as well. But for me, I'm not getting cute on Ruben Bain. If he leaks down past 8, past 9, and there's teams in the low teens, maybe they want to trade up to get a guy like this. I'm not getting cute because of arm length. You've heard all the stuff as far as his arms are 31 here. I had him at 31 here. He's not 30 and 1/8. I'm not getting cute on it. I think he's one of the elite ball players in this class. And I think he's going to be a heck of a ball player early on in his career.
If he has 33-inch arms, are we talking about him as the first overall pick?
I think there's a conversation to be had, potentially. Yes, I do, specifically with the Raiders to where the Max Crosby situation is up in the air.
It's interesting because you say what can be the difference, and I watched a clip the other day where Jeremiah Love hits the corner against Ruben Bain, and you can see where, I mean, honest to goodness, the 2 inches was a tackle or not a tackle. It's frustrating, but he's obviously playing high-level football for a long time, and his arms have been the same length that whole time. I think it's an interesting conversation that generally we only have at the combine.
Yeah, and I think also, guys, when you look at just overall the guys that he's faced, he's going to face a lot of players that he saw in the ACC, SEC, Big Ten over the years in the NFL as well, and there was just no issues there. So it could be also a Jalen Carter situation. Teams got cute on Jalen Carter. Now, of course, there was stuff behind the scenes, right? But he's been obviously a heck of a player for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just, for me, if I'm Adam Peters and Ruben Bain's there at 7, and your other guys that you have higher on the board, like this spot where Downs and Reese or Love were off the board, I'd potentially prioritize Ruben Bain to be a guy that can play up and down your front.
I was going to say, I think I don't want to oversimplify it, but I think he could potentially even have a higher floor because we do think he has that, pass rushing upside because he has that so much power and he does have that bend. But I think walking into day one, he already has that run defense kind of built within him. So I think it's a pretty solid point there.
Yeah.
But that being said, let's jump into the draft. I think it's kind of the fun part of the conversation here. The Giants are sitting here at number 5. Their needs are wide receiver, guards, tackle, and cornerback. If you look at PFF and the analysis, Carnell Tate's been mocked with them quite often, but maybe the dynamic has changed over the last week or so. Ryan, in your mindset, what are you looking at here? Who would you take between? It's a great selection. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese are the options here.
Yeah, a couple things in my mind. One, I'm going to get after my guy Trevor over there at PFF for these needs right here. They need a linebacker. The Bobby Okereke situation, he's gone. And Micah McFadden is also a free agent. And John Harbaugh is now their head coach. Ray Lewis, Roquan Smith. They got to get a guy in the middle of their defense. So for me here, I know the Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson stuff's been a conversation. But I'm actually going to go, and again, Kayvon Thibodeau could be gone, adding Arvell Reese after adding Abdul Carter, but I'm going Sonny Styles here. Grab a guy that's in the middle of your defense, a green dot for the next 10 years.
Gotcha. As soon as they hired Harbaugh, that felt like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
He's had one of those middle field scouters all the time. If you're the Giants, would you think for a second, is Francis Moga, is this a both sides guy? Like, can they have Andrew Thomas on one side and put him in over on the right side and feel pretty good about that offensive line?
Absolutely. Yeah. Their whole side of their right line is Greg Van Roten and Jermaine Illuminor, both free agents. Right. So they really got to boost those guys. I like John Michael Schmitz in the middle and Andrew Thomas outside of him. But I think if you have Thomas and now we know on either side, it's a heck of a group moving forward for Jackson Dart, specifically under center.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Radar, I see your question. We'll get to that because we're about to get to 71 in a moment. So we're going to kind of like freeze for one moment in regard to that. But we're looking at number 7 overall. And Ryan, I think this is almost ideal. Like, I'm a big Arvell Reese fan. I don't know why he is becoming like unpopular among circles. Like, I guess the criticism of him is as the year went on, as the lights got brighter during the Big Ten championship and during the playoffs, he potentially wasn't making as large plays. But I was watching the tape, Ryan, and early in the year, he was a menace. He just has ultimate pursuit, turns the corner. He has an edge component. He has a drop back component. I'm a big fan. I think this would be a home run for Washington, but that's just me. What are your thoughts?
I agree. There's some recency bias going on with a little bit of the Sonny Styles stuff right now. I think as far as the Ohio State guys, Arvell Reese is a dynamic player. Now, I will say this, a conversation that was really brought up in Indianapolis as far as teams with him. It's a crazy stat, and I didn't even think it was real. I had to check it 4 or 5 times. Arvell Reese has not forced a fumble, recovered a fumble, or had an interception since high school. So that ball production in his game, they want to see if you're playing off-ball backer, right? In this situation with Durante Jones, if you're living along the edge, okay. If you're going to be that spinner type of defender like a Frankie Louvu or Nick Bonito where you roam in coverage, ball production is something that they want to see a little more of. But overall, this is a hybrid piece that can pin his ears back and get after the passer, immediately become your most explosive player up front, and then also be a guy where you add more speed to the second level of your defense with a Jordan McGee and very likely more snaps, hopefully, for a guy like Kane Madrano. So I'm going Arvell Reese here at 7 overall.
No-brainer. I agree. I think it's fantastic.
Real quick, is Carnell Tate a guy where the numbers come and you say, I've watched enough of the tape to know what kind of prospect he is at wide receiver and feel real comfortable taking him despite what the numbers may or may not have been?
Yeah, I think if you guys were checking out the NFL Network broadcast when the receivers were going and Brandon Beane said, man, he ran 4.5. I don't know if he can separate at all. I don't know, let him drop here. That's the perfect example. Like the tape really, really says it all. And I did talk to some scouts that had that his times in the 4.4s, high 4.4s during that week. So I'm not worried at all as far as his tape. Carnell Tate, I think, is one of the premier receivers in this entire draft. He is wide receiver 1 for me, right alongside Jordan Tyson. Mekhi Lemon a little bit lower for me. But overall, I'm not really worried about the 4.5 time at all. I think also, guys, 4.5 is blazing as well.
Yeah,
4.4 is bad. Right. It just makes you appreciate guys like Kenyon Sadiq at 240, running 4.39.
I think the problem is everybody runs a 4.5 because everyone's so fast right now. That's kind of
Right.
the issue potentially.
Right.
Quick questions before we move on to the Cowboys pick. So I was kind of thinking out loud. We see David Bailey, Arvell Reese right there. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, I don't think it's going to happen. If both are on the board, would you go David Bailey or would you go Arvell Reese there?
If you're Dallas?
So going back to Washington's pick, if you're sitting there and both of those potential players were there, David Bailey, Arvell Reese, do you have a preference one or the other?
I think I talked to you guys before where I had David Bailey as my edge 1 for a long time.
Okay.
But as the process continues to go on, I wanted to see more in the ground game, even though he's gotten better in that aspect. But to answer your question, George, quickly, I think I'd go Arvell Reese because of the hybrid versatility and what Durante Jones wants to do with positions football players right now.
Gotcha. Thanks for the quick answer. I appreciate that. So we're on the clock with the Cowboys. Their needs are running back, edge, linebacker, and safety. Looking over here, we have the we have some arguably cornerback 1 and 2 on the board right in front of us. We have a great safety who showed out at the combine as well. Yeah. Messidor is another kind of a sleeper pick, same thing as Keldrick Falk. But I'll throw it over to you. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Dallas is always about splash, right? I don't think we'll ever deny that. Jerry Jones, as long as he's alive running that thing, he's going to be about splash. I think this is a premier corner in the class. I like Siobhan Revel, see what he does now opposite of Deron Bland, but I'm going to go Mansour Delane here, the Virginia Tech transfer to LSU. I think he's someone that can be a guy that shuts down a third of the side of the field for you. He's starting to play his best ball. And I think overall going to that Dallas defense where you're going to face the guys in the NFC East that you guys all know the names of, you got to get a guy on the outside to help that front 7 that's going to improve. So give me Mansour Delane there to play opposite of Deron Bland.
I pulled the trigger on that. I think what's interesting is the Ravens get a key Messidor, and I feel like it's just our stereotypical Ravens pick. It's got kind of a grinder, kind of a physical person right there.
Yeah.
Is he too high for 7? The kid from LSU?
Mansour?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think, again, with his tape, he's had moments where he was absolutely dominant. And I think when you look at the SEC experience, the body type, the strength, the hips, the fluid, everything is there for him to be an elite player. But now I think for Washington, though, Doug, really to answer your question is it too high for Washington at 7? Potentially, because they don't have the guys up front to consistently get after the passer. And I think everything at all 3 levels has to correlate to where you don't want your guys in the back end covering for 4.5 seconds every single snap. Yep. So I think if the Eagles were there at 7 and they loved him there, that's a perfect pick to get a guy to play opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. But for the Commanders, they got to get guys more so in the front 7 to be able to help out guys like Sanders Still and Amos right now on their back end.
Okay. Thank you.
So the Cowboys, I'm jealous. I mean, they lost Micah Parsons, but they also have 2 first-round picks. They walked away with Mansour Delane. They're back on the clock at number 20. They have another impact player they could potentially grab. Who are you looking at, Ryan?
Yeah, you go to the edge guys. Cassius Howell, I do like. He's explosive, but a little bit of a limitations for me. 20s for me right now a little high. Check out the other edge guys. I know Messidor went to the Ravens. TJ Parker's had a good offseason process. Let me go R. Mason Thomas here. I'm going to go R. Mason. He's someone I think is going to start in the first round. In that 20 to 27 range, extremely explosive, high character guy as well, explosive in the SEC, versatile in what he can do up front. He's just someone overall I think is going to get better and better and better. They drafted Donovan Ezeraku, one of my favorite players in last year's draft on day 2. This is a guy that maybe sneaks into the first round above the Zion Youngs, TJ Parker, even Keldrick Falk potentially in this draft.
And the funny thing is kind of an anecdote. His actual first name is R, which I find pretty interesting. I don't know if you heard that anecdote, but essentially his family, their whole siblings go by R, and they're like, you know what? I don't like any particular name. I'm going to pick him R as his first name, which I find pretty interesting. It's kind of random, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Sitting at 23, the Eagles, their first selection on the clock. We saw R. Mason Thomas go. Cassius Howell went in 22. I feel like it's pretty early for him. I've been hearing upper second round, but there you go in the first round. Looking at Philadelphia, tight end, guard, edge, and cornerback here. What are you looking at?
I saw Kenyon Sadiq right there on the board. I will say this, on draft day, I'd be very surprised if he's there at 23 as of right now. But I think the guy that you had at the front of the board just for this exercise is all the way at the top, is still available. That's my top tackle in the class, and Spencer Fano. Now, I know Lane Johnson, is back. Obviously, they have Jordan Mailata on the other side. Spencer's a guy that can play tackle or guard. He also took snaps at the combine at center for some teams. I think this would be an absolute dream scenario, even though Kenyon Sadiq is still on the board for them. And all I've heard out of Indy was that Dallas Goedert very likely is going to be gone out of Indy, out of Philadelphia. So I think Spencer Fano here is a dream addition for them to start right away at right guard and then fill in for Lane Johnson's, making this just keeping him straightforward at right tackle for the entirety of his career potentially.
Good call.
Which is scary for the rest of the NFC as well.
Yeah. Definitely a Philadelphia type draft pick, right?
He's just a really, really good ball player. His footwork at his size is outstanding.
There you go. We're seeing some big names come off the board. Top of the second round. Lee Hunter, people love him right now. Casey Concepcion.
Is that where you got Concepcion? You like him in the first round?
Late day one. Absolutely. With the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. Absolutely. Yeah.
People keep sleeping on Caden McDonald, too. They keep talking about the top 4 Ohio State guys, but he's another one right there. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, sitting there at 37. The Giants are back on the board. They selected Sonny Styles with the first pick. They're back on the clock. Where do we go here?
Yeah, check out receiver for me. This is a really good bucket of guys. I really like Malachi Fields, Chris Bell off the ACL. Omar Cooper's just a really fundamentally good football player. I'm going to go – I know he wasn't super impressive at the combine, but I'm going to go Malachi Fields here from Notre Dame, the UVA transfer. He's just someone that really impresses me as a 6'4" guy that can really sink his hips at the top of routes. I think one of his reps at the Senior Bowl, at the end of one of the days, they had one of their competitive reps in the competitive period towards one-on-one. And usually, guys, you see 6'4" players go over the top. They want to win the 50-50 ball. Right. But what can you do as far as snapping routes off? Can you separate on a 3rd and 4? Can you do those little things? And Malachi Fields showcased that ability. Also has outstanding hands. I mean, watch that Pitt tape for Notre Dame. It's just a really good football player. So I think grabbing him, compliment to Malik Neighbors after losing a Wan'Dale Robinson type. I think Zachariah Branch maybe fill those shoes a little bit early on day 2 as well. But Malachi Fields is the guy there at 37.
Gotcha. And Ryan, just quickly, because there was a big gap between this Giants pick and the next pick here. So Malachi Fields, kind of perusing through the selections, Caden Proctor, is there any names stand out to you, someone that we should keep an eye on or someone that's really interesting to you by any chance?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if Chris Johnson from San Diego State has come off the board yet. Guys, don't be surprised he comes off the board at early or late portions of night 1 from San Diego State. Yeah, He had a rough start to the Senior Bowl. He got better as the days went on, but he's someone that teams absolutely love. I think he's a heck of a ball player. There's behind Delane and behind McCoy, and I'll say this right now, McCoy, the injury is scary. He hasn't played football in 16 months. I think Colton Hood makes his way into round 1, but really 30, 31, 32, potentially Seattle at 32. For a guy like Chris Johnson, they're going to lose Reek Woolen in free agency. That's a name to keep an eye on as well.
Do you think McCoy's injury history is going to affect his draft status? Because some people kind of see him as CB1, but at the same time, we've seen it. Medical is kind of that little red flag. It could potentially fall late first round, maybe even early second round. Is that potentially an option for him, or is he a lock top 10?
I think, it happens every year, guys, where guys tend to slip. He hasn't played ball in 16 months. It's scary. If you're a GM and let's just say you're a team that, this is a major draft for you. Adam Peters specifically, it's a huge draft for him. You got to hit on guys, specifically top 100 picks. And if you're drafting Jermon McCoy, let's say top 15, top 20 picks, and a guy comes into training camp and he has a tweak in his knee or tweak in his calf or anything like that, overcompensating, can't change direction that you thought he would be, that's a huge, huge concern for me. I absolutely think the medicals are going to push him down some boards. Does that push him into the second? I don't know. I think the 24 tape was really good. but mid-teens, high teens, I think so. There's a potential there.
16 months is not the usual timetable for that injury either, right? I mean, we're like 6 months almost. It feels like longer than what we feel like guys are getting over these things.
Yeah. It's scary. It is.
So we're sitting there at 54. So Ryan, we're on the clock with the Eagles, tight end, guard, edge, cornerback. Are their needs? I guess this is a pretty interesting question. So in the second round, it seems like the edge class is pretty deep. The wide receiver class is pretty deep. Like in the second round, is there a money spot of positions? I don't know if you're that far along in the process, but like where would be a good pool of players or talent that you could potentially look at in the second round?
LBs, baby. LBs are going to fly off the board. Yeah, LBs and some running backs, the Jadarian Prices, Emmett Johnsons, Mike Washington, those guys. Really, LB and running back are going to fly off the board here. I think for Philly, I do think tight end is potentially a spot here, but go check out edge. I do like Derek Moore there. That's potentially an addition. I think they want some more twitch at the position than what Derek is. And I'm going to go with a guy I don't think that gets out of the second round here, and he's right there from UCF, and Malachi Lawrence, who's really taken advantage this pre-draft process. Just a big physical kid that can win on third downs. I think his game as a run defender is going to improve. He's only going to get stronger. And in Philadelphia, where you got push from the interior, they're not going to be able to keep everybody, so they're going to have to replenish at some point. But to play opposite of Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, Moro Ojomo was outstanding in the middle. I think he's someone to come in as a rotational piece early on here on day 2 and have a really nice start to his career.
Gotcha.
And I'm thinking about guys on that Philly team and Nakobe Dean probably not being back. Is that a guy that Washington can afford to make a move on with that injury history, or would you be looking elsewhere if they're doing middle field linebacker in free agency?
Yeah, I'll say this, Doug, in that Nakobe Dean scares me a lot if I'm a GM. And the reason why I say that is because there's a reason why he went to Philadelphia, to play behind Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. And I think if you can't keep Nakobe Dean clean from centers and guards working to the second level, he's going to get washed out of plays consistently. Now, you always know the type of what you're going to get as Georgia backers, downhill, trigger, and they can run sideline to sideline. But they drafted Smile Munden last year as well, that they want to get more snaps for in 2026. So if he wants $11 million a year, that's top 20 linebacker money in football. If you want to come to Washington and pay him that money, fine. I would be against it specifically because you don't have the guys in the front to keep him free. So I'm kind of out on the Nakobe Dean stuff, paying him like a top 15 to 20 linebacker in football.
No, me too.
Gotcha. All right, so we're at 68 with the Eagles again. We're about to get to 71. I want to bring up a question that was in the chat. I kind of shelved it for a moment. So Radar, one of our good friends from that I talk to often, he was curious, Ryan, said, question for you. Who are some guys at defensive tackle you could use that you could see drafting at 71 or later in the draft? He says, I personally really like Darrell Jackson Jr. and Dominic Orange. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like Dom Orange. Of those two, I still have some movement ability concerns with Darrell. I mean, he's a powerful type of guy. But I think overall, it's really going to be interesting, guys, to see what Durante values, for his defense. If you're going to see some odd fronts, you're going to have some bigger players. If you want an even front, you're going to have some lighter players. I think there's 3 guys, though, that really are explosive that also fit that 290 to 310 type of build. I mentioned Grayson Halton at the top, but also Caleb Proctor, small school kid out of southeastern Louisiana. He's been known for scouts for years. He had opportunities, guys, to transfer in the portal to some Power 4 programs, and he didn't. But a couple of years ago, they played LSU. He had 2 sacks in that game. If you guys remember the last couple of years, the NFL talent that had come across that LSU line, Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, a lot of guys along that LSU front. So he's a name. And then Zane Durant from Penn State, 290, moves like he's 265, versatile up and down the front, kind of penetrating one gap type of player. So those 3 guys are names to watch there on day 2.
Dude, Zane from Penn State. Dude, he was clean running. He was smooth.
Yes.
Real quick, what does the new defense do for some of the defensive players that are already here? A Johnny Newton, a Deron Payne in a contract year, Javon Kinlaw. Like, what will this do for those guys? I'm thinking particularly with the former second round pick.
Yeah, attacking, getting upfield, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Newton in Illinois. I mean, the guy was playing wide 9 at times. He rushed the passer. Away from Christmas Day against Dallas, Johnny Newton's been kind of invisible for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think you guys maybe potentially agree with that. I want to see more from him in such a huge year. So I think overall, the big boys in the middle, it's going to be attack, get vertical. Allow those linebackers to fill those B and C gaps. You control the A gaps, get upfield and attack the quarterback. We're going to add some guys at edge, maybe some more success on the back end with Amos and Sanders still, and potentially another name. They're really going to allow these guys to get after the quarterback a little bit.
All right, so let's go back to the draft board. We're looking at 68. We're back on the clock with the Eagles. For context, we drafted Spencer Fano with a first-round selection, Malachi Lawrence. They're putting together a nice little draft right here. They're kind of working on the trenches with the edge and the tackles. Back on the board. What are you thinking, Ryan?
Yeah, check out receiver for me. A.J. Brown's situation is still wide open. If they don't add our old friend Jahan Dotson's wide receiver 3 there, and or wide receiver 2, and that's a big question. Yep. Antonio Williams right here is probably going to be the focus for me.
Interesting.
I think he's a guy that maybe even go earlier than 68. Just a really fundamentally good football player, really good hands, kind of an inside-out player. Some people want to label him maybe as just a slot guy at 5'11", but overall, he's a guy I think that can really do it all. And in this new offense with Sean Mannion up there, they're going to ask Jalen Hurts to get the ball out of his hands quicker. They're going to do some more under center stuff that you're going to see with David Blau this year in Washington with Jaden. So a guy that can quickly separate on the outside, Devonta over the top. I'll probably add a tight end once we work through this thing. But overall, I think you go Antonio Williams there from Clemson.
So, Ryan, quick question because I'm not familiar with him. His numbers dipped a little bit from 2024 to 2025. What happened? 300 yards less, 7 touchdowns less. Was there injuries going on this year, or what happened? I don't know much about him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think overall, look at this Clemson offense. I consistently wanted to see more from Cade Klubnik throughout the year. He was someone that was expected to be, a top 100 pick a couple of years ago. The opportunity for Antonio Williams as their guy on the outside, consistent double teams as well, teams bracketing him over the top. But overall, when you focus just on the targets and the receptions in certain moments, the projection, the projectability of his tape in an offense to where he could be wide receiver 2 or 3, really kind of interesting there if I'm playing Howie Roseman into that offense to where, again, the ball is going to get out of Jalen Hurts' hands quickly.
All right, so let's pick him. And it seems like the wide receiver class is pretty deep. If you look at Elijah Surratt, people have said really good things about him. I know Doug loves Zechariah Branch. He's electric with the ball in his hands. Chris Brazell's kind of like that big body Tennessee wide receiver we're kind of used to with Dante Thornton last year.
Every year, guys.
Every year. There's always
every
that
year.
He's like that stereotypical like Raider type where it's the big and fast right there. So we draft Antonio Williams.
Ryan, is that because of how much 7-on-7 the kids play now that the wide receivers feel like they come in prepared more and more each year?
I'll say a little bit of that. I think that even maybe goes into the testing as well. Guys are testing and doing combine type of stuff at 12, 13, 14 years old. Yeah. But I think even to expand that conversation, Doug, with these Tennessee guys, where obviously every program has a type, right? Jalen Hyatt, Dante Thornton, Cedric Tillman, and then now, of course, Chris. I'm lower on Chris than a lot of people. He's more so in that middle second round bucket for me. I got to see him get off press man quicker. The release package has got to vary. And at the NFL level to where it's not just the Josh Heupel offense of spread you out horizontally, pre-snap, and attack you vertically post-snap or going over the top with Hendon Hooker or Joey Aguilar from this past year. I want to see some more nuance in his game. If you're drafting him late 1 or early 2, that's a potential to come in as a wide receiver 1 for an offense. I just specifically don't see that right now. Hopefully it makes me points, proves me wrong. That'd be great. But I just don't see that right now in Chris's game.
So I'm curious to see where you go, Ryan. I'm looking at number 71 for the Commanders, and I actually see some pretty good talent on the board. I'm actually I haven't been going deep into these mock drafts very often, but I do see some potential plug and play players here. But I'm curious where you want to go. So we're on the board 71. I don't know. Just tell me where you want to go. Scroll up and down. Look at this position. Let me know where you want to go.
Took a while to get back on the board for the burgundy and gold. Goodness gracious. So we went Arvell Reese, I believe.
We went Arvell Reese.
Yep. Arvell Reese. Let's do. Geez, this defense needs so much help.
Yes.
Oh my Lord. Check out corner for me.
All right.
Just to get a guy. Yeah, I'm sure Pons came off the board already.
He did. He did early second round, maybe. I think he went pretty quick.
Yeah.
With Biadasz now out and Allegretti getting an extension, Chris Paul very likely. If he wants $15 million, I'm not sure that he's going to find it in Washington. Not saying that he's not deserving. We've been talking about it for over a month on this show. That he's gonna look at the money, right? And he deserves to get out in there and get a chance. How big of a need does this make guard, or are you happy with Brandon Coleman having a actual full off season to really just focus on being a left guard?
I really do like Brandon. I do. I love the positional versatility. He fits the body type of probably what they want to do as far as inside, outside zone. He's versatile. He can pull. He's already been in the system for 2 years. He's played next to Laramie at certain times. I just think Brandon Coleman's the guy at left guard. for me at least, I think the front five is set. I think Nick Allegretti is going to be the center moving into next year.
Okay, and you're fine with that?
I would like some
that's a
youth
lateral
there.
move. Is that a lateral move from Biadasz or a downgrade?
I think it's a downgrade because of the athleticism that
too.
Biadasz provided.
Yeah,
he's now. I'll say this, guys. You know, you don't see a lot of centers around football like Linderbaum or Creed Humphrey, Cam Jurgens in Philly with the ability to pull from the center spot. But I just think the athleticism at that spot to do that just expands your playbook. And if they go Jeremiah Love at 7, I would have much rather had Tyler Biadasz over than Nick Allegretti, where Nick is a to B run through your face. Tyler can win to the outside shoulder. He can seal the outside backer. Just a unique athletic platform that you just, if it's Nick, you don't have that at the center spot, bottom line.
So I'm going to throw a question from Radar in a moment, but while we're on the center topic, either one of you guys, are you willing to spend $22 million to add Tyler Linderbaum to the Washington Commanders?
I personally wouldn't.
No.
That's a lot, right? It's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. If you do that, then you just kept it the way it is, right? You give Biadasz a little bit more, keep the left guard Paul, and because you pay him a little extra and make it work that way. Hey, listen, Ryan, I know you're up against a hard out. Just give us a couple of thoughts here on Washington, and then we'll get in more in depth down the road with you.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, even next week, I don't know what you guys are doing, but you guys can text me whatever. You guys have all my information. Even here, guys, just overall corner, I think both here, Dalen Everett, Traden Stukes is a very versatile nickel player as well. I think one thing with Adam Peters, for even the fans out there to know, is the RAS scores, high athletic scores. He's not going to draft low-level athletes at whatever position. Traden Stukes is a guy that can play and be a big nickel. He's a guy that can play high. I think even at 71, this may even be a little low for him. I think he maybe even goes in the 50s or 60s in this class. I mean, you're seeing here 6'2", 200 pounds, a lot of experience as a redshirt senior. There's a guy that can really play all over the board for you on the defensive side of the ball. And just the Commanders as a whole, 6 picks, 3 of those 6 in the 6th and 7th rounds. Maybe they add capital. I don't know how they do that. That's by obviously trading down or trading a player. We'll see what happens. But they have so many holes on the defensive side of the ball. But bottom line is free agency starts next week, and we'll be able to really paint the picture of what they're going to do here in these next few weeks.
I'll draft him for you, but you would take him over Jacob Rodriguez. People have seemed really high on him recently. Michael Trigg. Who else was on the board?
I love Michael Trigg, guys.
Yeah,
I love Michael Trigg.
You'd still go cornerback on that route?
What's that?
You'd still go the cornerback that you suggested over those guys? You still take Traden Dukes?
If Trigg is there, I don't know if he was there on this exercise. He was. I would probably value Trigg. I think right alongside Kenyon Sadiq, Eli Stowers, I think he's as good a tight end as far as a flex weapon in this class.
Got it.
And a wingspan, 84 and a half, whatever it is, that's longer than some offensive linemen in this class.
Ridiculous.
If that light bulb clicks, I think Michael Trigg's a potential top 10 flex weapon in football down the road.
Gotcha. So
all right, brother, we appreciate you, man. We don't want to keep you hold you up from your next hit here, so because we know you're a busy man. I appreciate you, brother. You're the best man, and yeah, we'll get back real soon.
Of course. Thanks as always, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, man.
All right. All right, Doug, do you want to kind of reflect on the board real quickly, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, man.
Let's kind of wrapping up
a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of moving through the draft board.
Ryan's the best.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. And the fact that he can kind of recite these players off the top of his head is fantastic.
For those of you in the chat that aren't familiar with Ryan, he used to cover the Commanders for a different outfit. And then, as you know how those things go, he's been freelancing for a while now, but he's just an incredible dude. He's an incredible scout as well.
Absolutely. All right, so let's do this. I think the Eagles are the last one on our draft board. We'll kind of wrap that up, and then we can talk about the overall selections.
Yeah.
Let's kind of appreciate his feedback, right? He was talking about Dukes, I guess, supposed from the quarterback. We'll give him to the Eagles. Unfortunately, they'll have another awesome quarterback to put right there, and we'll go through the rest of the draft. Let's take a look. Let's look at how it all shook out.
What they thought about Ryan here.
Yeah, so looking at the board, dude, having Arvell Reese fall at 7, Doug, I'm not upset with that by any means. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
The top of the board, I mean, if you look at it, it's pretty defensive heavy. I guess there's only one offensive player that went to top 7. Let's hope an offensive tackle sticks in there, or wide receiver sticks in there and bumps people down. But even with just one offensive player there, we still see Arvell Reese going number 7 to the Commanders. So I'm happy with that. I think it's a pretty good breakdown. Let's take a look.
Even if it's Bain and not, you know what I mean? Like, even if those two flip,
yeah,
I'd rather have Arvell Reese than Ruben Bain. That's my personal preference. Like I said, I think I put on Twitter the other day. The four Ohio State guys and their running back. That's kind of, as Ryan likes to say, that's who's in my bucket.
Exactly right. I agree with that.
And any of them would be fine by me.
Absolutely. I wish they broke it down by a team, but looking at it really quickly. So the Giants walk away with Sonny Styles. We walk away with Arvell Reese. I think it's pretty much a wash right there. I'm pretty happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys get Mansour Delane, great CB1, R. Mason Thomas. That was interesting that he values him that high. I didn't realize he was going to be a first-round pick, but that is something to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah.
So that stood out. Spencer Fano, he said that was his tackle one going to the Eagles in the first round. I feel like the Eagles always have someone fall in their lap. It's so annoying, but it's what happens there.
If the Browns draft 3 quarterbacks in 2 years, that'd be something.
Absolutely. I'll be really surprised. Yeah, Ty Simpson, that'd be pretty crazy. So
I'm actually like Ty Simpson quite a bit.
Yeah.
The guys that can throw over the middle of the field coming right out of college, but still that'd be something. And Concepcion there, if you watch the drill from the combine, what's the drill when they run?
Gauntlet? Yeah.
Oh, man. He couldn't run it better. Dude was a smooth runner.
I got to take a look. I missed that one, so I'll take a look at that. All right.
Yeah, it's all about perfection with his run there.
So he talked about Malachi Fields. So that's something I got to keep an eye on. I'm not too familiar with him, but he had him going to the Giants. He seemed pretty high on him.
Caden Proctor, I like a great deal.
Yeah, it's huge, like 6'7" or something. It's a gigantic body. Yeah, gigantic. Yeah. People love Eli Stowers. I saw him. Malachi Lawrence. I got to do some more research. I didn't realize the talent level there, but he was pretty high. Brian was pretty high on him. Let's go down. Kamari Ramsey going to the Patriots. I feel like they're always stacking up good talent there. Antonio Williams from Clemson, which I found pretty interesting because I haven't dived deep into him, but there were other wide receivers on the board. I think Surratt was one from Indiana. I think Cooper might even have been on the board as well.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
But he still went with Antonio Williams. I think Michael Trigg, we actually were going to talk about him talking to Ryan off the line. That was one of his 3 big takeaways from the combine. This guy has an awesome vertical, huge arm length. He's built like a house. He's a great pick right there. And
Zachariah Branch ends up on the Chiefs, just get him on your fantasy team immediately.
Absolutely. That's a match made in heaven right there. He's just great, Swiss Army knife on offense, going to a fast team, and it makes a lot of sense there, to be honest.
I don't know if he ran at the combine or not, but he had to have burnt up.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then the Eagles walk. They just have so many picks. I'm so jealous of the Eagles having 2 or 3 in every single round.
Forget who it was last year that came on with us. Maybe it was Devin Jackson from up that part of the world who covers the Eagles, and it was like we had our 7 picks and he had like 15 to pick from.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It took all day to get through his.
Absolutely, that's funny.
Damn Howie Roseman.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But with the pick at 71, it'll be interesting. Of course, through the process, we're going to talk to so many people that are way smarter than we are about this stuff. But I just love getting an early start on this and getting to jump George and kind of hearing names that you don't hear every day, right? I mean, we know the names that everybody says. Getting these guys on really helps us get to know the guys that we don't know, because we're not grinding the film all day long like these guys are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you and I talk about it all the time, Doug. Like, we're lucky that we've been doing this for such a long time that we do have some pretty great friends in the industry that know what they're talking about. And the whole point of our show is to not only just have fun and talk to people that we have grown in close to over the past couple of years, but we always invite people that are specialized in certain things and we can learn from them as well. So having Ryan on was fantastic. So it's a great little, jump off for the draft.
Yep. And then let's see, we'll be back Thursday. Let's see, with the youngest in charge. He had to drop out last week, but he'll be Lionel Willingham will be back to talk something crazy, I'm sure, on Thursday. I always enjoy having him. And then just keep up with the pod, because we'll be rocking and rolling pretty much every Monday and Thursday this offseason for as long as we can.
Yeah, draft season, guys. We're gonna have a lot of draft people on here. I'm looking forward to it. And I think the mock draft is a great exercise, Doug. Let's keep it rolling. I think it's a lot of fun. Let's get people on here and we'll talk it out. It'll be great.
That's what we'll do.
Cool.
All right, buddy. I'll see you Thursday. Yep.
All right. See you guys.
Cool.